In the farthest, most arid stretches of Rajasthan, daylight fades fast. What remains are the shadows pooling inside ancient, abandoned stepwells, massive geometric structures engineered centuries ago to descend hundreds of feet into the earth. Kabir, an urban content creator hunting for viral legends, sees this as a playground. Mira, the local guide he hired to get him here, sees it differently. She tracks the fading sunlight, keeping her distance from the edge. This diagram reveals the architectural danger. These structures were designed as life-saving oases, but when the water table drops below the lowest stone tiers during a severe drought, the well dries up. The life-saving architecture is instantly transformed into a deep, steep-walled trap. It is out of these conditions, starvation, dehydration, and absolute isolation, that the region birthed the legend of the Jal Pashach, a water demon said to inhabit the deepest, darkest pits of these dry funnels. Ancient architecture often harbors forgotten physical dangers, and local myths often serve as the first line of defense against them. Mira establishes one absolute rule: never answer if you hear your name called from the dry well after sunset. The structure of the well creates an acoustic fog. As sound waves bounce inside this inverted stone pyramid, they cross and fragment. This makes it impossible for the human ear to tell where a sound is coming from, or even what it actually is. Kabir, ignoring the warning, steps to the edge. He drops a heavy stone into the absolute darkness at the center, an intrusion into a silence that has lasted for decades. A heavy silence follows. Then, a voice calls out. Despite the acoustic distortion of the well, Kabir's brain latches onto a familiar pattern. He hears his own name, spoken in the exact cadence of his mother. Breaking the silence isn't just an act of defiance, it sets a predatory system in motion. By disturbing the pit, Kabir has signaled his presence to whatever is waiting at the bottom. Kabir is transfixed. The familiar voice echoing from the dark creates a hypnotic compulsion, drawing him toward the crumbling stairs. Mira tackles him before he can descend. She knows this is auditory predation, the entity's primary way of drawing victims into the reach of the pit. This chart shows how the brain's defenses are bypassed. Normally, a dark pit triggers a fear response in the amygdala, but by simulating a familiar voice, the entity triggers a recognition response that overrides that fear, tricking the victim into walking toward the threat. As they scramble back, the Jal Pashach emerges. It isn't a ghost, but a towering, shapeless mass of viscous black water. It rises up from the depths, dripping upward against gravity to block the narrow stone staircase. The Jal Pashach doesn't hunt with claws or speed. It relies on its ability to hide within the sounds you trust most until you are too deep to climb out. The entity has a physical limit. As a water-bound construct, it cannot cross bone-dry earth or lines of salt. It is trapped on the damp, lower tiers of the well. But the situation is changing. Kabir's elbow was scraped during the struggle, and his blood is dripping onto the dry sandstone steps. This topographical map shows the safe zone shrinking. The blood droplets map a path, providing the moisture the entity needs to climb. Realizing they need a distraction, Mira decides to use a different sound source to confuse its senses and draw it away. Acting fast, she grabs Kabir's phone, starts a video at full volume, and hurls it across the cavern as well. Surviving this threat means understanding its rules. By providing a louder, more interesting sound elsewhere, they turn the entity's own hunting method against it. The phone distraction works. The black mass lurches toward the new sound, and the two of them vault through the exit. Mira slams the iron gates shut, and the cloud of dust shuts the world out. As they drive away, the adrenaline fades, and the reality of what they saw begins to settle in. Folklore and local superstitions are rarely just campfire stories. They are often ancient, coded survival manuals. Long ago, these narratives were used to enforce safety boundaries around hazardous environments, ensuring that people stayed away from very real dangers they couldn't yet explain. Kabir looks at the audio he recorded. This spectrogram reveals the truth. The mother's voice was just a thin layer of sound. Beneath it is a massive, jagged, low-frequency wave, a sound that shouldn't exist in nature. Modern skepticism doesn't make these predators disappear. It just makes us forget that in the right environment, we are still prey.